Dune is a famous science fiction novel by American writer Frank Herbert, published in 1965. The story unfolds in the distant future, during the times of the Galactic Empire, spanning hundreds of thousands of planets. At the center of the plot is the planet Arrakis, also known as Dune. Arrakis is a unique and dangerous place, characterized by harsh climatic conditions, as most of its landscape consists of deserts. However, Arrakis is also of immense strategic value, being the only source of a valuable resource called spice or melange. Spice is the most precious substance in the universe, possessing incredible properties. It extends life, expands consciousness, and grants the ability to predict the future. As a result, spice is not only a valuable trade commodity but also a key factor in the political and military struggle for power and control over the galaxy. At the beginning of the novel, the ruling house of Atreides, Duke Leto Atreides, receives an order from the Galactic Emperor Shaddam IV to move to Arrakis and take over the planet's governance. This decision by the Emperor raises many questions and suspicions, as the previous rulers of the planet, House Harkonnen, were removed from their position. Leto Atreides realizes that this appointment is unfavorable for him and suspects that the Emperor and House Harkonnen are plotting something sinister. However, as a loyal servant of the Emperor, Duke Leto and his family travel to the planet Arrakis. On Arrakis, the Atreides family faces challenging living conditions, as the planet is a dangerous desert with harsh climate and sparsely populated lands. However, they also see the potential in spice, which could significantly enhance their position and influence in the galaxy. Paul Atreides, the son of Duke Leto and his heir, is one of the key characters in the novel. Paul is young and charismatic, but he also possesses unique abilities. He is trained by his mother, Lady Jessica, who is a member of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, a mysterious female order with mystical abilities. Lady Jessica was meant to bear a daughter according to the Bene Gesserit's plans but gave birth to Paul, creating a complex situation in the Atreides family. Nevertheless, Paul is trained by the Bene Gesserit and develops unique abilities, making him a superhuman. He also learns from the Freemen, the local inhabitants of Arrakis, who have adapted to the harsh conditions of the desert and can control sandworms. Massive mutants living in the sands of Arrakis, the Freemen, who revere the Lisan al-Gaib, voice from the outer world, as the prophetic figure of their future savior, also accept Paul and see him as their Messiah, who will bring them freedom and transformation. This legend and prophecy about the Messiah play a crucial role in the novel's plot and influence the actions of the main characters. As Paul grows and develops on Arrakis, he experiences prophetic visions of the future, which foretell him complex ethical dilemmas and choices. He sees himself in the prophecy of the death, predicting his own demise. This prophecy confuses Paul and makes him question his destiny and role in the future of the galaxy. As a result, he grapples with these trials and tribulations. Parallel to the events on Arrakis, the reader learns about the cunning plans of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, a secretive order of mental warriors seeking to control the fate of the universe. This enigmatic and influential alliance trains Paul in their abilities and has its own secret plans regarding the Empire. As the story unfolds in Dune, Paul Atreides continues to adapt to his new life on the desert planet of Arrakis. He becomes deeply connected to the Freeman people, who view him as their prophesied savior, the Lisan al-Gaib, and call him Muad'Dib. Embracing his newfound role, Paul starts to lead the Freemen in their struggle for freedom and control over their homeland. During this time, Paul gains a more profound understanding of the Freeman culture and their unique way of life. He learns their traditions, religious beliefs, and the secrets of survival in the harsh desert environment. His experiences with the Freemen and his own visions of the future continue to shape him into the leader they believe he is destined to become. As Paul becomes more enmeshed in Freeman society, he also gains insight into the vast power and importance of spice. The spice melange is more than just a valuable commodity, it holds the key to interstellar travel and the function of the navigators, who guide spaceships through the vastness of space. The Guild, which controls space travel, has a vested interest in maintaining their monopoly over spice production on Arrakis. Meanwhile, the political intrigue and machinations on Arrakis intensify. The Harkonnens, the former rulers of the planet, continue to plot against the Atreides. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, the head of the house, is determined to regain control over the spice production on Arrakis. And he colludes with the corrupt Emperor Shaddam IV to achieve his goals. As tensions rise, the Harkonnens, with the backing of the Emperor's Sardaukar troops, launch a brutal and covert assault on the Atreide stronghold. In the middle of the night, the Harkonnen forces attack the unsuspecting Atreides troops and allies, taking advantage of a traitor within the Atreides' ranks. Caught off guard and outnumbered, the Atreides' forces are overwhelmed. Duke Leto is captured by the Harkonnens, who subject him to cruel torture. Lady Jessica and Paul manage to escape the onslaught with the help of their Freeman allies. They go into hiding in the vast and unforgiving desert, seeking refuge among the Freeman communities. Paul, who has embraced his role as Muad'Dib and the Lisan al-Gaib, takes on the responsibility of leading the Freemen in their fight against the oppressive Harkonnens and the corrupt Emperor. He finds himself torn between his personal desire for vengeance and his newfound sense of purpose as the leader of the Freemen. Under Paul's guidance, the Freemen continue their campaign of resistance against the Harkonnens and the Emperor. They use their knowledge of the desert and its inhabitants to wage a guerrilla war, striking at key Harkonnen installations and supply lines. As their ranks grow, so does their determination to liberate Arrakis from the grip of oppression. Amidst the chaos and conflict, Paul's prescient abilities become both a blessing and a curse. He sees potential futures and divergent paths, making him acutely aware of the complexity and consequences of his actions. As the weight of leadership bears down on him, Paul grapples with his own identity and the enormity of his destiny. In the midst of the turmoil, an unexpected alliance emerges. Princess Irulan, the Emperor's daughter, who had been initially wed to Paul as part of a political scheme, becomes drawn to him as she witnesses his courage and leadership. She finds herself torn between her loyalty to her father and her growing admiration for Paul. Paul Atreides, now known as Muad'Dib and the leader of the Freemen, continues his fight against the oppressive Harkonnens and the corrupt Emperor. The Freemen, under Paul's guidance, gain momentum in their resistance, and their attacks on the Harkonnen installations grow bolder and more strategic. During one of the Freemen's daring raids, they manage to capture a shipment of spice and secure a valuable asset for their cause. The loss of the spice deeply troubles Baron Harkonnen, who becomes even more determined to crush the Freeman rebellion and regain control of Arrakis. As Paul becomes more deeply entwined with the Freemen and their culture, he experiences a profound transformation. He fully embraces the Freeman way of life, adopting their customs, values, and even their dress. This transformation further solidifies his position as their leader and the Lisan al-Gaib. At the same time, Paul's sister, Alia, who was born with the knowledge and memories of the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers, begins to exhibit extraordinary mental abilities and precognition at an unnaturally young age. Her gifts and insights, however, come with a dark side, as she struggles to control the overwhelming presence of the ancestral memories within her. The growing rebellion on Arrakis and the legend of the Freeman's Messiah attract attention across the galaxy. Many start to view Paul as a potential threat to the established power structure, including the Spacing Guild and their monopoly on spice travel. Fearing the disruption of their control, the Guild and the Emperor decide to take action against Muad'Dib. Princess Irulan, who has grown conflicted in her loyalties, begins to question her father's actions and decides to act as a spy within her own family to aid Paul and the Freemen. Her double role places her in a dangerous and precarious position as she tries to navigate the treacherous political landscape. As the conflict intensifies, Paul's prescient visions show him glimpses of the future and the possible paths that lie ahead. He sees the dire consequences of the decisions he must make and the heavy toll it will take on both him and those he loves. The weight of his leadership and the realization of the prophecy's gravity weigh heavily on him. In a critical turning point, Paul and the Freemen launch a massive attack on the Harkonnen stronghold, culminating in a dramatic confrontation with Baron Vladimir Harkonnen himself. The face-off between Paul and the Baron becomes a battle of wills and ideologies, with the fate of Arrakis hanging in the balance. During the final showdown, Paul confronts the dark truths about power, revenge, and the burden of being a leader. He grapples with his own inner demons and fears that the path he walks may not be the righteous one he envisioned. The confrontation ultimately leads to a shocking and decisive outcome that changes the course of the conflict on Arrakis and sets in motion even greater consequences for the galaxy. The aftermath of the battle between Paul Atreides and Baron Harkonnen reverberates throughout the galaxy. The outcome of the confrontation solidifies Paul's position as the ruler of Arrakis and the leader of the Freemen, but it also sets in motion a series of events that will have far-reaching consequences for the entire universe. As the new ruler of Arrakis, Paul faces numerous challenges and responsibilities. He must navigate the delicate balance of power between the various factions on the planet, including the Freemen, the former Harkonnen supporters, and the native inhabitants. His rule is characterized by a delicate blend of diplomacy, strategic decisions, and the use of his prophetic visions to anticipate potential threats. Under Paul's leadership, Arrakis flourishes, and the spice production increases to unprecedented levels. The Freemen, once oppressed and nomadic, now thrive under his rule, and their loyalty to Muad'Dib grows stronger. However, Paul's actions also attract attention and fear from other powers in the galaxy, including the Spacing Guild and the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. Princess Irulan, who still harbors conflicting feelings for Paul, finds herself torn between her duty as the Emperor's daughter and her admiration for Muad'Dib's leadership. As she continues to serve as a spy, she becomes privy to the inner workings of Paul's rule and witnesses the weight of responsibility he carries. Meanwhile, Alia, Paul's sister, struggles with the burden of her own abilities and the overwhelming presence of ancestral memories in her mind. The knowledge and power within her threaten to consume her sanity, and she battles to maintain her identity amidst the overwhelming voices of the past. As Paul's rule continues, he becomes increasingly aware of the potential dangers posed by the Spacing Guild and their monopoly over spice travel. The Guild's navigators, who rely on spice to fold space and enable interstellar travel, perceive Paul as a threat to their control. They fear that his prescience might allow him to manipulate space travel without their guidance. In an attempt to assert their dominance and maintain control, the Spacing Guild and the Emperor conspire to bring down Paul and the Freeman Rebellion. They strike a treacherous alliance with the remaining Harkonnen forces, led by Rabban, and devise a plan to weaken Paul's rule and eliminate the threat he poses. The situation escalates into a full-scale war, with Paul and the Freemen facing formidable enemies from all sides. Battles rage across Arrakis, and Paul's strategic brilliance is put to the ultimate test. He must not only defend his position as the ruler of Arrakis but also protect the future of the Freemen and safeguard the fate of the entire universe, amidst the chaos of war and political intrigue. Paul's prescient visions become both a source of guidance and a curse. He is haunted by the potential futures he sees, knowing that each decision he makes has dire consequences. The burden of leadership weighs heavily on him, and he grapples with the ethical dilemmas of wielding such immense power. As the conflict reaches its climax, Paul's choices and actions will determine the destiny of Arrakis and the galaxy itself. The epic conclusion of Dune unfolds in a thrilling and thought-provoking finale, where the threads of prophecy, power, and human nature intertwine to shape the future of the universe. Paul Atreides must confront his own path and the consequences of being the fulcrum of change in a vast and complex universe.